After a quick visit to Top Gun, Maverick's going to take us between two worlds, and Bob's going to cook Elizabeth some burgers. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Becks Perfect, and this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
Welcome to Off Screen. We are keeping you cinematic. We've got everything for you on the big screen, the small screen, and everything in between. And as there is a special celebration coming up in the next couple of weeks for us here across the pond in the UK, we thought we'd kickstart all of our movies this week with something that portrays our wonderful monarch. It's called Elizabeth, A Portrait in Parts, and it's in cinemas from today, rated 12A. Now, Van, you had the pleasure of watching this and learning a little bit more about our famous Queenie. Let me know how it was. I'd love to find out.
Well, interesting things with this one. So, first of all, the title is incredibly apt. This is snakes on a plane level blunt titling. So when they say a portrait, they mean it's literally an art piece. As in, you will learn about as much as if we took a physically painted portrait of Queen Elizabeth and you studied that. And the in parts is literally, here's some clips we just threw together. The common through line, the Queen exists. Have a listen.
Coming up the river to the Pool of London, seeing Tower Bridge opening. And we had the Prime Minister, Sir Winston Churchill, with us. And once saw this dirty commercial river as one came up. And he was describing it as the silver thread which runs through the history of Britain. He saw things in a very romantic and glittering way. So perhaps one was looking at it in a rather too mundane way. And then to come up the river in a small boat with all the sides of the river completely, people on each side. It's wonderful.
Yeah, that's what we're in for.
Okay, well, you know, I find the Queen and her life and everything about her fascinating, and I'd jump at the chance to watch any sort of documentary about her because what a life to have led. How can you get this wrong? That's the question I've got.
Well, I would imagine making a documentary and offering up the opportunity to learn literally anything about her might have been, I don't know, a day one type assignment. Alas, this is the final work of Roger Michell. I've been calling him Roger Mitchell for years. And it turns out Roger Michell, Simon Hooper recently corrected me, you may know him better as the director of Notting Hill. This is his final work, obviously intended for when it came out. It is a staggering work of absolutely dropping the ball as regards reading the world when you drop something. There are things left in... Putting aside the fact that you will learn nothing. Literally nothing. Not one thing. There is not one fact stated in this at all. I learnt nothing about Queen Elizabeth. I'd be all for that. I would be absolutely all for that. This is effectively a 99-minute Dulux Maxi Gloss screensaver. There are either, dependent on how you define the term montage, there are either 10 or 11 montages in this that are just, we found some old footage, here's a slow choral cover of a pop song over the top of it. And they do that either 10 or 11 times, dependent. 99 minutes. So that would work out at, if you take 5 minutes off a credit, one every 9.4 minutes, absolutely ludicrous. And like I say, and then you get to the dropping the ball of things that you maybe should drop out. First of all, this thing skates over Andrew with so much gusto. I'm honestly shocked that Tonya Harding wasn't appearing somewhere in this. It really does seem to have a, let's just say, somewhat not sanitized so much as flat out sterilized view of the last few years of the monarchy, the last few decades of the monarchy even. Up to and including, and this is a really bizarre one for me, do you remember recently, like 3-4 months ago, we had the thing where Will and Kate had gone to, was it Jamaica? Where all of a sudden the issue of exactly how the monarchy is seen in certain former colonies has come up. And
Yes.
the monarchy themselves have said that they are going to start to distance this. Right. I don't think anybody in the edit suite got the tweet. I don't think any of them were told at any point, because not only is this thing absolutely rife with images of young Queenie being carried atop the shoulders of many men of a very specific skin tone, not only that, they actually go to the extreme of featuring out of every human being Queenie's ever knighted. Out of all of them, they pick Lenny Henry. And then they use a clip of him talking about his mum instilling how proud Jamaica is of the monarchy. And I'm just watching this with my jaw on the floor, Jim Carrey in the mask, goggle plastic eyes are stretched across the room, absolutely mystified at what I am seeing. So, no. On literally every... It's not even a particularly well-made version of a Dulux Maxi Gloss 99-minute screensaver. It's bilge. This is patronising. The good news is, if you are interested in seeing this, and I am just going to assume that you're so old that the only time you are going to see this is when you get the free cup of tea on Multiplex on Tuesday morning. Well, the good news is you don't have to put the effort in. It's going to be on Prime on June 1st. There you go. I just saved you 99 boring-ass minutes. God save the Queen. Right, can we talk about something more fun now?
Yeah, go on then. I think it calls for it after that little tone deaf piece of. Yeah.
Everything about it, every single thing about it, just doesn't work. It's infuriating. If it was in an art gallery, you would find it patronising. Sorry, I'm going to move on.
Well, no, yeah, let's move on. Let's move on to Bob's Burgers, because this is an institution of an animation, isn't it? And now it's in movie form.
Absolutely. So, Bob's Burgers, are you familiar with the series? Do you have you
No,
seen
I'm not.
the show?
I'm not.
No.
I'm not really. No.
I'm not overly. I've seen a couple early episodes of it, I think when it started, which is 6 or 7 years ago. Its primary voice artist is H. John Benjamin, who also voices Archer, the main character of a show I do really like. So I'm hoping that the presumed success of this means we get an Archer movie. So feature film spin-off of this animated series, which seems to be popular on Disney+, does seem to have its fans, and it's quite idiosyncratic. It's quite rooted in sort of Mike Judge sensibilities. The central story here is you've got the struggling family who run a burger restaurant, hence the title Bob's Burgers. They are forced to go to the bank when their business loan is being called in for outstanding payment. They face the risk of losing the restaurant and all their equipment. And at the same time, a giant sinkhole appears in the street directly in front of the restaurant, in which a dead body is found. And all evidence seems to point to their landlord, which kind of gets them out of a jam, but kind of doesn't. And the children, Bob's children, who are all central figures within the series, set out to solve the mystery of who put this body in the ground and save their restaurant.
What you doing, Gene?
I'm making an instrument out of spoons and a napkin holder and dreams and magic.
Obviously, Tina.
How's the burger, Bob?
It's okay. I put an egg on it.
Why is Dad making a burger at 8 a.m.?
Is he on British time?
He's making it to bring to Mr. Dowling at the bank. We have a meeting this morning, and we're going to ask for an extension on our loan payment.
Oh, fun.
And we really, really need to get that extension. All the restaurant equipment is wrapped up in that loan.
So you're giving him a burger?
Well, I mean, we can't give him money, Tina.
Because we don't have any.
Pretty much.
How about you play him some of this?
What, to scare him?
No, to enchant him.
So, with your whistle-stop tour of getting to grips with Bob's Burgers, and knowing that there are things like Family Guy, Rick and Morty, all these other much-loved animations that are out there, where does Bob's Burgers, for anyone who is new to this, where would this sit on that kind of ranking?
I mean, in terms of what it is in more the adult skewing primetime animated show. So this is going to the American Dad, Family Guy, Rick and Morty kind of audience. Effectively, people like me or, my teenage stepson, for instance. It's kind of, we are kind of the audience for this. Now, I'm not that up to scratch on Bob's Burgers specifically, like I say, enough to get the tone. And there is enough of the brand around it that you sort of know the humour. The movie's very much in keeping with that. Now, I think it's a 3-star film. It's a standard nuts and bolts. You would have seen this direct to DVD without much sweat a few years ago. I actually don't know why this is being put in cinemas. For one thing, a solid half hour of it is musical numbers. Now, the show is not a musical. It's the same thing as when South Park, did a movie and all of a sudden it was a musical. It was meant to be a shock. It's the same kind of thing here. Not in the same way that Family Guy does musical numbers like all the time. Family Guy will just spring into song, and as you're kind of accustomed to it, less so with Bob's Burgers, I think. Those musical numbers do drag it to a halt. And the problem is it was already, as a non-fan, it was already a pretty average nuts and bolts animated spin-off. I would imagine as a fan, that 3-star would probably push to a 4-star, maybe a 5, but I would imagine those musical numbers drag it down a star because it's just not in keeping with the generally idiosyncratic and quite sharp humor that runs through it. There were gags in it that really had me howling, and then there were the musical numbers, during which in our press show, every single person got up and went to the bathroom at different times at different musical numbers. So I think that tells you how ill-advised they were. But you know what? There is a fan base for this, and I would imagine they're going to be, as the poster says, getting their buns in theatres come today.
Welcome back to Off Screen. So we are keeping you on the big screen now, and we've obviously got a big movie to talk about. But before we get to that, we're going to be meeting Juliette Binoche in Between Two Worlds, which is available again from today, rated 12A. Now, she plays a lady called Marianne who was once a trained lawyer, but after who gave up her career to essentially be a housewife and then, to look after the kids. And then finds herself, when her husband leaves her, with no money and no prospects. So decides to essentially join the job centre and find a way of making small but menial amounts of money for herself as a cleaner, and creates a community amongst a number of other different people that she meets along the way as well.
Yeah, we don't have a clip for this one, obviously.
No, of course, because it's in French.
Kind of alienates our audience. So much. Somewhat limits our audience when we start playing French to them with the. There is audio transcription software now, actually, that does kind of dub over in English. But no, I'm
not quite the same.
Subs, not dubs, all the way, baby. So this is based on non-fiction, a non-fiction book called Le Quai de Ouistreham, because the movie is actually called Ouistreham. And right, first of all, I love the way that you just described that plot, because I want to stick with that. That's not how I would describe the plot. I like your way better because it doesn't spoil it. And that is the setup. And I have been going down the other route, to be really honest, because it was pitched to me as that. So I didn't have that sort of plot twist in me. It was pitched to me with, it's kind of like when someone says, From Dusk Till Dawn is a vampire movie, and then you start watching it and you're like, why am I watching a Tarantino movie for an hour? What's going on here? It kind of like that. I had that done to me. Juliette Binoche is flat out amazing in this. She's absolutely tremendous in this. Like, she's, you know what I mean? She's one of those actresses who just has that kind of get out of bed in the morning gravitas, and she can turn it on tap. Like, the skill here and the nuance in this performance, because again, without getting into the plot, there is a lot to this character because of that has to weigh on her, that you see her process and you see her deal with, and the relationship that she forms with. And it's worth noting, by the way, there are no headshots on most of the cast on this on IMDb.
I noticed that, and I thought that was interesting. Infuriating, but actually, does it mean that it's Juliette Binoche and a cast of unknowns who are doing a blooming good job in this movie? That would be amazing. I really want to compliment her co-lead in this. I don't know her name, so cheers for that, whoever at the studio is uploading these things to IMDb. But really, I would say, based on the non-fiction anyway, adapted by Emmanuel Carrere, whose work I wasn't overly familiar with. I sat there, watched this, and thought, when this started out, again, going with, as you've described it, it's a very Ken Loach kind of feel. I thought there was an almost I, Daniel Blake sensibility early on. Did you find? Yes. Oh, my goodness. So it was totally I, Daniel Blake for me. Yeah. And I walked in there and to watch it was like, this is I, Daniel Blake in French, and with a female protagonist.
Like, we,
in this.
Daniel Blake.
Yeah.
We, Danielle Blake.
We, Danielle Blake. But I thought she was, she's got an amazing presence in stillness I think is the way to kind of look at Juliette Binoche, is that she can just be still and not do much, but yet radiate that gravitas, as you mentioned. And for me, that's just that whether or not she's working in French or she's working in English, she just has something that draws the eye into her, and that's what drives you throughout this movie.
She's kind of like Isabelle Huppert in that way, or Kristen Scott Thomas. When she hops between languages, you don't so much notice. That's kind of just part of the persona. I thought this was great. I'd say it's about 106 minutes, and it does keep you guessing. Actually, it does work, and its drama and its turns, they do work quite well, because you kind of know where it has to feasibly go. And it does get there, but it takes quite an engaging and captivating route getting there. I thought this was really great, but again, all on the performance of Juliette Binoche and whoever her co-lead is. Again, come on, guys, start putting some headshots on IMDb. It's not like we get sent press notes with every single link. Come on, just give us some headshots at least. But it's called Between Two Worlds, or Ouistreham. I think you can see this in Curzon cinemas from today, which also means you can get it on Curzon home cinema in demand as well. But you know where we're going next, don't you, Bex? You know where we have to go next.
Well, I think the sky's the limit, isn't it?
We're going to the danger zone, baby.
We're going to the danger zone, because we got the need for speed. I have seen 5-star reviews for Top Gun Maverick, left, right, and center. You have managed to go and watch it. It's rated 12A. It's out from today. What have we got coming our way?
Okay, so in reality, it has been 37 years since they filmed Top Gun. Okay, It's 36 years, I think, since the release. And Maverick is back. It turns out that at the end of the last movie, when he said he was going to be a trainer, a teacher at Top Gun, he was going to become an instructor at the academy, at Top Gun Academy, which is the elite flight academy for the top 1% of pilots, as we are taught. He's also the only pilot who's seen actual combat in the past 30 years. Because we don't think about that. Top Gun really does celebrate how rare, aerial violence actually is. Doesn't get credit for that. Anyway, it turns out that he became an instructor for all of 2 months. He just jacked. It wasn't for him. He went back to being a test pilot, and now he is called back to Top Gun when it turns out the government has a mission. There is a secret underground uranium facility, the existence of which threatens the freedom and the security of the free world. And only one man has the skill to instruct a new league of graduates with the skills they need to take on the mission, destroy this base, and save the planet. And that man is, I'll give you 3 guesses.
Captain Pete Maverick Mitchell. Let me be perfectly blunt. You are not my first choice. You are here at the request of Admiral Kazansky, AKA Iceman. He seems to think that you have something left to offer the Navy. What that is, I can't imagine.
With all due respect, sir, I'm not a teacher. Just want to manage expectations.
What the hell? Good morning, aviators. This is your captain speaking.
And we're off.
Oh, you know what? Last weekend I watched Top Gun because I was like, I'm going to prep myself for this. And it was on telly. And I was like, I'm just going to sit down and watch this. And I forgot how much I loved it, and the cast in this. So obviously Tom Cruise is in this, as you'd imagine, as Maverick. But we've got Val Kilmer as returning in some way, shape or form with an artificial voice, an AI voice that replicates his original voice. Because obviously, sadly, he has lost his voice to throat cancer. And he returns as the Iceman. We've got Miles Teller, who I believe plays Goose's son in this. Rooster, of course.
Goose's son is Rooster. I don't know why he's not called Gosling, but he's a rooster.
I love that. It's all like, when you kind of realise that information, you kind of go, it all kind of fits. And I like how it's all linked in together. I'm excited for this. And the reviews, I can imagine that the aerial cinematography and everything is just mind-blowing. This is probably an IMAX movie, right?
Right, it is. Right, first of all, IMAX or go home. right?
Yeah.
Okay. If the IMAX screen is sold out, don't even bother going to the screen next door. Just go for a drink, have some dinner, wait for the next IMAX show. See it in IMAX, and oh my God! First of all, it is one of the it's probably the defining blockbuster of this year. It's got to be. I can't imagine for the life of me that we're going to turn out a blockbuster this year to this caliber.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Because
like you could drop Endgame after this and it would be an anti-climax. You could drop something like No Way Home or Endgame after this and it would be an anti-climax, genuinely.
Because do you know how long this has been delayed for? It's been a couple of years, hasn't it?
Yeah, this was, I believe, it was going to come out in 2019 initially, then they asked for extra time to put the flight scenes in, I think, and then it moved to early 2020, and then it got bumped a bunch more times. It's worth noting the England football team got to see this last summer, and then I think signed NDAs, I think, because Tom Cruise, when he was filming one of the Mission Impossibles last year, did it to motivate the England football team. He showed them Top Gun Maverick. So, you know, when you consider that there are footballers' wives in court, like, you know, presently for, you know, not being able to keep their mouths shut, that's a fascinating thing to consider. Right, Glenn Powell is the MVP of this. He is the Val Kilmer of this. Miles Teller, top 3 roles Miles Teller has ever had. His mustache, incidentally, one of the only 2 things I can complain about with this movie. The other is the Lady Gaga song, which is just ass. It does not stack up in any way, shape, or form to any other song on this soundtrack or the one before it. And the idea that it's meant to fill in as the contemporary answer to Take My Breath Away by Berlin is borderline offensive. Miles Teller's mustache, incidentally, doesn't work because he already looks enough like Goose. He looks enough like Anthony Edwards. Why are you doing this to us? It looks insane. And nobody mentions it. It's the even more bizarre thing. Jennifer Connelly is there weirdly because she seems to be the only actress they could find who's age appropriate for Tom Cruise, like actually age appropriate, that they think they can sell as a sexy pinup, which is ludicrous. I mean, it says a lot about the double standards of contemporary Hollywood beauty. But Tom Cruise, again, he's the movie star. He's one of the great movie stars of our age. Here's proof why. It's a movie about why Tom Cruise is a movie star and how Tom Cruise being a movie star is better than a bunch of interchangeable faces playing characters. See if you can read the subtext in that. Fans are going to be blown away by this. It has a ticking clock element that makes it a pacier, much more brisk movie than the first Top Gun. This is a lot more of a thriller at times than Top Gun ever was. I am gobsmacked by how good Top Gun Maverick is. It's dedicated to Tony Scott, like it says at the end in Loving Memory of Tony Scott. At the beginning, it says it's a Simpson-Bruckheimer production, and all the way through, there's images of Anthony Edwards, things like that. It is a movie that understands its legacy as much as what it represents. And what it represents is absolutely astonishing. It represents that there is no substitute for a good, old-fashioned, knuckle-down, balls to the wall, edge of your seat, get the popcorn in, call the boys, get the whole family around, let's do a blockbuster. 5 stars, 2 thumbs up. I will see this 9 more times. I loved it. Go see Top Gun Maverick. And now it's time for a segment we like to call Off Screen Pays the Bills. Hey, Bex.
Hey, Van, what's going on?
Ain't nothing going on but the rent. You know how it is. But I have been working on my mental health recently, genuinely, so the timing's fortuitous for our sponsors this week at Let's Think Happy. It's the brainchild of Ashley, who, with her husband, fostered and went on to adopt 3 children they knew right away had been through substantial trauma, the kind that would make the strongest person break down into tears. They went on to spend 7 months in therapy with no success. But it would transpire they were actually in the wrong kind of therapy. The difference, once they got the help they needed, was immediate. And so Ashley answered the call to make a change. Right now, people are just placed in whichever therapy is available at the time, as opposed to the therapy that could benefit them the most. People aren't getting the help they need, and because of this, they just get stuck in their struggle with mental health. Ashley had an idea and jumped on it, hiring a licensed therapist to create a questionnaire, a skilled web designer to create a website, and the result, magic. Now anyone can take a free questionnaire to find out what type of therapy they should be undertaking. And if you're really serious about your mental health, you're going to want to buy your full results. That way you know whether your answers have indicated a mental health condition such as anxiety disorder, depression, bipolar disorder, PTSD, ADHD, and more for just $7.99. Plus, for a limited time, you can get 20% off by using the code LTH20. So don't stay stuck being depressed or anxious all the time. Go to letsthinkhappy.com and take the free questionnaire. Life's too short not to be happy, so let's think happy. Are you ready to launch your new career in coding? Well, Treehouse have got one of the best and most affordable online classrooms for you. At Treehouse, they've rethought the learning process and built a proven system to get you the skills and knowledge you need to achieve your goals. So when you've done, you haven't just watched a video, you've learned, practiced, and fully absorbed a concept. Or you can choose to build a portfolio, create a network, and land your dream job with their bootcamp-style tech degree program. So land a dev job this year. Whatever your goal, they'll get you there. And you can get 50% off your first month as a podcast listener through the special discount link in our episode description.
Welcome back to Off Screen. Now that you've had the need for speed, let's take you from that big screen IMAX experience all the way down to your very own telebox when we've got your 7-day guide to everything movies that are going to be playing out this week. And we're kicking off tonight on Film 4, 10:45 p.m. with, Big Game. Van, talk to me about this.
Did you not have the pleasure of, I think this was before you were reviewing movies and before I worked in London, so I know we didn't know each other when this came out.
No.
This is really something. This is a 2014 actioner, and it plays like something, like one of those films that you just see go direct to DVD. And it's got the most deranged cast. It's got like a top tier cast, and you are amazed. And then you watch the movie and you're like, this is bonkers. I love it. So it stars Samuel L. Jackson as the president of the USA. Okay, he's on Air Force One. He's just flying along, minding his own business, coming back from a trip when, wouldn't you know it, Norwegian hunters take a surface-to-air missile and shoot down Air Force One, over the snowy mountains and the forest. And of course, he's in the escape pod, like they tried to do to Harrison Ford in Air Force One, only they actually manage it with Sam. And they get him down, and it turns out that, wouldn't you know it, one of his Secret Service personnel, played by Ray Stevenson, is a traitor, and he's in league with these guys, and he's hunting the president through the forest, almost like nobody involved ever saw Air Force One. But in a move that shows that someone tried to best Air Force One, they've given him an ally. His ally is a young Norwegian boy called Oscar, who is on a sort of rite of passage hunting trip to prove his manhood. He has been let loose into the forest for one night to see what he can kill with his bow and arrow, what he can scavenge for with just his hunting knife and his nets, and what he can bring back. And when the two cross paths, with all of these elements coming for dear old Prez, how do you think this is going to shake out? Well, I'll give you a hint of the buddy repertoire that's soon to develop, and you can experience the full ride of this for yourself tonight on Film 4 at 10:45. Take it away, Big Game.
You're lucky.
Gotta be honest with you, young man. I'm not feeling so lucky right now.
But you are. And if I hadn't found you, you have 0 chance of survival. I'm a hunter. This is my home. With this, I can catch us food and keep us safe.
Safe from what?
Bears.
Whoa. There's the bears out here?
Yeah.
And you could kill one with that thing?
Yeah.
Have you done it before?
Yes.
Really?
No, but my dad has. And I could do it too.
All right.
Okay, well, there you go. That is Big Game, available for you, as you mentioned. Yeah, bonkers, on Film 4 tonight at 10:45 p.m. Want something bonkers? Check that one out. Now, tomorrow night, we have something very iconic. We have a dance that Oscar Isaac has perfected and made iconic, and it is in Ex Machina, which is on Film 4 as well at 11:20 p.m. Anyone that's watched this movie will know about that dance, and anyone that will watch this movie will know how iconic it is once they've seen it. This is the story of a young programmer who is selected to participate in a groundbreaking experiment.
It's a Turing test, isn't it?
Yeah, and like evaluating human qualities of a very, very highly advanced humanoid AI. So very technical, but actually done in a really sort of art housey kind of way, I feel. So there's a lot of stuff about this movie that I think will appeal to a lot of people, but for some people kind of will feel it's not really their cup of tea. But if you're into it, boy, is it one hell of a ride.
Well, it's very Black Mirror, isn't it, by today's standards? Time was, we would say this was a Twilight Zone episode. It's very Twilight Zone-ish. Nowadays, for a younger audience, though, we say Black Mirror for meaning the same damn thing. Really, I love the bit of iconography you take away is the dance, by the way.
Oh, of course.
And the weird thing is, when I remember it now, I interchange it in my head with Daniel Bruhl doing the same kind of dance in Captain America, Falcon and Winter Soldier, whatever it was. Brilliant performance of Alicia Vikander, though, in Ex Machina.
Yes.
Like you say, 11:20 Saturday night on Film 4. Good proper sci-fi potboiler, really, isn't it? On to Sunday night, then 7:50 on ITV2. Oh, it's ladies' night, Becks, and they're off to the Met. Didn't we just have the Met a few weeks ago? By the way, I forgot to mention Alex Garland doing Ex Machina. The reason that's on Sunday night is because Men is out next week. His new one with Jessie Buckley, which we'll review next week. But Ocean's 8, Sunday night, ladies' night at the Met, eh?
Yes, indeedy. Yeah, and the Met, the first Monday in May is when the Met is. And if you look back on this movie... Yeah, if you look back on this movie, then you will see a whole plethora of famous faces when it comes to some, I suppose, creating a heist around the Met. And that stars Sandra Bullock, Cate Blanchett, Anne Hathaway, Mindy Kaling, Rihanna, and many, many more. I'm pretty sure I haven't forgotten anyone else in that. But there are
Awkwafina and Helena Bonham Carter, I think.
Oh,
those are two biggies. But alas, sadly, none of those scene stealers feature in our clip, which is, let's just say, more of a setup for our lead in this, who's Sandra Bullock, in much the same way that George Clooney was the lead of the original remake trilogy or readaptation, whatever we call the Soderbergh one. Well, it turns out it runs in the family.
Good afternoon, Miss Ocean. As you know, parole is a privilege.
It's a mistake, but it happened. And if I were to be released, I would just want the simple life. I just want to hold down a job, make some friends, pay my bills.
I do really enjoy this film, and I think it's really good. And actually, it's made me excited for the news that Margot Robbie is potentially signed up to do a prequel to Ocean's 11. Oh, I say prequel, just going back to the 1960s and the original kind of... Yeah, exactly. But exciting stuff for Ocean's 8. Definitely a fun evening movie if you want to sit down, popcorn movie at its best. Moving on to Monday, we have Doomsday, 10:50 p.m. on the Horror Channel. Now, I can only imagine, Van, that this is right up your street, which is why you've picked it.
Well, it's a Neil Marshall movie, so, you've got my ticket money right off the bat. Whenever Neil Marshall shows up, and I say that with no apologies for Hellboy. I'm sorry, I was there day one. I'm a fan. I don't care. All right, it was a terrible, terrible movie, but I'm going to give that man my ticket money forever because he makes great movies. Obviously, Hellboy aside, and apparently a lot of that was studio interference anyway. So Doomsday was, I think, his third movie. Stars Rona Mitra, Bob Hoskins, all-star cast. Alexander Siddig was in this, actually, strange as well. He very rarely gets a film role these days. And it takes place after a pandemic has ravaged Britain, and they have quarantined Scotland. They took all the infected, rounded them up in Scotland, and walled them in. And it turns out, decades later, when the virus pops up again in London, I think it's 2032 or something like that, the virus pops up again in London. Rona Mitra, an elite Black Ops operative, because that's kind of the role that she just keeps getting cast for, still to this day, the woman is in her 40s and still making a good go of the same role she was getting in her early 20s. Hats off to her. Love her for that. Loved her on The Last Ship, actually, when she was in that, which is Michael Bay's TV show, if you can believe that. She gets sent into Scotland. Malcolm McDowell runs the country, living in a medieval castle. Because, again, Neil Marshall movie. It's deranged. It's all sorts of steampunk, apocalyptic fun with this virus element. Great fun. There's a car chase sequence in it that's like Mad Max Fury Road, years before Fury Road. It's like a prototype of Fury Road. 10:50 on the Horror Channel on Monday night. Absolutely check that one out. Another one that's one of those that we haven't got a clip for, but absolutely check out. In fact, we can say this for the next two. Tuesday, Film 4, 9 p.m. The Bone Collector is on. You might remember this as the big star vehicle after Angelina won her Oscar. This was the first role she really took, was The Bone Collector. And, oh, God, how much of the box office for that was made off the back of Angelina? First attempt to adapt Lincoln Rhyme for the screen. I know that was done recently on television. And Wednesday, June the 1st, 10 p.m. on Channel 5. one of the top 20 actioners of all time, bringing Michael Bay back into this. It's The Rock, baby, with Ed Harris, who's in Top Gun Maverick, Nicolas Cage, who's just awesome, and Nicolas Cage, who is gone but never forgotten. Sean Connery, who's gone but never forgotten. Nicolas Cage, don't get me wrong, Nicolas Cage would never be forgotten either. I'm just never have to say goodbye to Nicolas Cage. But Thursday, rounding off our week, Bex, 10 p.m. at BBC Two. I know you've seen this one. I don't know whether you like it or not, because I've not had a chance to ask you. It's Yesterday.
Yeah, and it stars him. This is the breakout role for Himesh Patel outside of EastEnders. And,
well, it was introducing. Was it introducing? Because he'd been in EastEnders for like a decade, but introducing.
Yeah, but it's the story of a guy who basically the whole world forgets that the Beatles, they wake up one morning, something happens, they forget that the Beatles has ever existed, except for Himesh Patel's character. And he was a struggling musician, and he decides to plagiarize all of the Beatles songs and essentially become the next Ed Sheeran in a way. It's quite like that kind of direction for this. And it's an interesting Danny Boyle movie. Don't get me wrong. I think I remember walking out of it and just feeling a bit underwhelmed because it was overhyped, and I think that's the way it is. I love the songs, I love the premise of it. It was the deliverables that didn't quite work for me, but nonetheless, still very much worth a watch. I believe we've got a clip for this. It's on BBC Two, 10 p.m. on Thursday. Still definitely worth a watch. So listen to this.
Let me just give you this advice, right? Song title. I won't charge you a penny for it as well. Hey, dude.
Hey, dude. Hey, dude, are you sure?
He's right. That's so much better.
Is he? Is it?
Yeah. Hey, dude, don't make it bad. Definitely going to be one of the best songs of the generation. Hey, dude,
Hey, dude.
don't make it bad. Do it.
Welcome back to Offscreen. We've got one last ride for you now where we are taking you through that DVD, Blu-ray and streaming aisle on your supermarkets. And actually, we're keeping you here very much at home. We are kicking off with a big selection that is available for you on Disney+. We've also got some stuff for you on Netflix. And we've got one big pick for you on DVD and Blu-ray today, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But we're kicking off with this big selection on Disney+. Patty Cakes. I remember seeing this, actually, and this was going to be a bit of a breakout role for its lead actress. Didn't quite come to fruition, unfortunately.
Did it? No, because this was the gritty rapper drama, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But it was from the female perspective, which was actually something quite unique. Now, I actually never got to see this, so I'm looking forward to being able to stream this now. So I've just never had opportunities to watch Patty Cakes, but I hear good things. Did you enjoy it?
To a point. I think it kind of captures your attention because actually the trailer was so good for this that you want it to be really good, and then it kind of loses its way a little bit and you kind of go, oh, okay, this isn't really something that I want to continue on with. But it's worth a watch if you're
might be ideal for
interested.
Streaming then, you think?
Yeah, I think it definitely is. It definitely is. Now, one that is most definitely an iconic movie to watch is the Kevin Costner JFK, which is also out on Disney+. Oh my goodness. This, for me, I'd watch this again and again when I was younger, just because it's so fascinating. Like, it's not quite well, it is kind of a biopic, but it's at the same time, we all know what happens to JFK, and you kind of want to follow that scenario right into the point. So even though you're given the climax of the movie, you're kind of like, this is something I definitely want to see how they portray.
Oh no, this is Oliver Stone's chronicle of the investigation. This is Costner as, is it Jim Garrison, the DA who investigated, and it's just a fascinating work by Stone. Like the idea, and incidentally, by the way, I did watch this a lot as a kid as well, which we are the same age, which tells you an awful lot about what the availability of films was in the early 1990s, doesn't it, Max?
Watching movies that are way too old for you. That's what we were doing.
Yeah, but it's amazing that this existed. It's an Oliver Stone movie through and through, but this was at a time when Oliver Stone could get a big studio movie with wide distribution, and the stars that he could get. I mean, Tommy Lee Jones, Donald Sutherland, Kevin Costner, hell of a cast. It's a long one. I mean, like when we said about Patty Cakes, it's probably destined for streaming. This, very much, I think you'll wind up watching this like The Irishman. Like, you'd watch this like a streaming show now, because by today's standards, the pacing would be a bit of a chore. But it's so good, and Costner's amazing.
So good.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Anyway, onto the next one that has seen a bit of a reappraisal in recent years, and I believe actually got a spin-off TV show on YouTube, is Jumper.
Oh, wow.
Do you remember Jumper?
Really?
Hayden Christensen.
Hayden
they did
Christensen and Rachel Bilson, wasn't it?
And Rachel Bilson, because they were a thing for a while, weren't they? I'm sure they were a couple. But, this got a sequel series on, I'm sure it was like YouTube Red, when that was a thing for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I remember that. I can't quite remember the premise of this, other than they can jump from, like, can teleport instantly from one place to another. And that's all I kind of know about it.
That's the plot. They're jumpers. They jump from one place to another, and there are people that hunt them and kill them. That's it. That's the movie. Cool. Enjoy yourself. Here's a song by The Fray. Because this is 2006, 2007. You know what I mean? And then let's see what else. Disney Plus are finally getting, and I'm shocked that this wasn't on there already, Daredevil. The Ben Affleck Daredevil is coming to Disney Plus. I actually am an apologist for this. I actually can make an argument for this movie. There is a director's cut, which is a noticeably better movie, because for one thing, it puts back in an entirely removed subplot about him being a lawyer that features Coolio as his defendant, as his client. Sorry. And believe it or not, that subplot with Coolio makes the movie. There's also just little things that are re-edited that work better. I really like the director's cut of this movie. I don't know if that's the version they're putting on, but even if it's not, Ben Affleck's Daredevil is just an interesting sort of curio now, particularly because it's now been sort of firmly established that the Netflix Daredevil is the Marvel Daredevil now. Like, that is it. He's the one for the MCU now. Like, that show can.
And also to that point as well, we are prepping ourselves to see Disney Plus take on the new series of Daredevil.
But that's it, it's been revived.
Yeah.
I think we're getting season 4 is going to be a Disney Plus show, which is unheard of. But one that's also coming to Disney Plus this day. My friend Kelly is going to be overjoyed by this. And I'm going to have to remember to recommend this to Zara Phelan, because I just right up her alley. It's called What's Your Number? Have you ever seen this one?
No, I haven't.
Right, so this stars Anna Faris. This was released, I think, about 2011. Okay, Anna Faris is the down on her luck, unlucky in love girl, but she's Anna Faris, so she's adorkable, I think is the term that they like to pitch these movies with. Adorkable. Look up the word in a dictionary, you just get a picture of Zooey Deschanel. Anyway, so she's adorkable, and she's unlucky in love. She decides that her chances lie best in one of her exes. So she goes through her number of exes, one by one, to give them another chance to reappraise them, all to the bemusement of her kind of obnoxious frenemy hunk neighbor, who seems to exist entirely in a towel at all times, played by Chris Evans. Can you formulate an idea as to where this might go, Bex? Just without saying anything, yes or no, just a little bit.
Yes,
yeah, you think,
a little bit.
Yeah. Enjoy. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's exactly as good as it sounds. Have fun. To be honest with you, I'll probably whack it on the telly when I've got 90 minutes free. Have at it. Perfectly fun. It's up there with, like, what do you call it, The House Bunny and things like that. It's very much an Anna Faris film. The Big Mama's House trilogy. Love it or loathe it. I fall on the latter. Comes to streaming today as well, but most importantly, one of the great Samuel L. Jackson thrillers, an unappreciated gem. You must have seen this.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin Spacey stars opposite. Back when Kevin Spacey was a big deal in movies, Kevin Spacey stars opposite Sam Jackson in The Negotiator.
The Negotiator.
Come on.
Yeah, such a good movie. And you know what? When you see the powerhouse that is Samuel L. Jackson, and we'll put Kevin Spacey to one side for a moment for topical reasons, but Samuel L. Jackson, when he's not doing Snakes on a Plane, is phenomenal as a dramatic actor. And this is just one of those great examples of that. I think we've got a clip for this. I think it's well worth you just listening to the man himself.
Never say no to a hostage taker. It's in the manual. Now, are you going to tell me no again?
No, I'm not.
No, wrong answer. Eliminate no from the vocabulary, Farley. Never use no, don't, won't, or can't, all right? It eliminates options. The only option that leaves is to shoot someone. Understand?
Yes.
Yes, good. See, yes is good. If you say no again, I'll kill somebody, all right? Now let's practice. Can I see a priest?
Let's not. You know what? Can we just like talk?
You wanted to talk? We are talking. Now, can I see a priest?
I'll see what I can do.
That's good, Farley. Now you're learning.
Just that cheek that Sam Jackson just naturally brings to these roles. He's on quite a few of our picks this week, isn't he? He's getting some good work.
He
He's
is
got
indeed.
Big Game in there as well. Over to Amazon Prime, though, today. We've got a couple on there. One that's a sort of forgotten 2009 pandemic thriller. We did have a clip. We've not really got time. We'll save the clip for the next one. But this stars Chris Pine and Piper Perabo. This got a higher profile release than it was intended to because of his popularity in Star Trek, the J.J. Abrams Star Trek at the time. But it still wasn't really a huge movie. They are the couple literally trying to cross America during a pandemic. It's called Carriers, and that's on Prime from today, alongside the forgotten 2007 Simon Pegg Tandy. Well, she was still Tandy Newton back then. She's Tandaway Newton now. Rom-com vehicle, Run Fat Boy Run, which I honestly don't know if you could call the movie that for reasons of being problematic now, but okay. That's on Prime from today. So, sorry, those are on Netflix from today, not Prime. Netflix. Sorry.
Netflix.
But on DVD and Blu-ray from Mondays, our final home pick for the week. This was a recent one that we released, a recent film from Joe Wright, starring Peter Dinklage. And,
Yes.
and do you remember? And Hayley Bennett, who it seemed like the film industry had forgotten about after making her a big deal for 5 minutes in 2016, 2017. She's back opposite Peter Dinklage in Cyrano, Joe Wright's adaptation of Cyrano de Bergerac, on DVD and Blu-ray from Monday. It's a pretty good adaptation. It is a musical, but it's got some swagger.
First he has too much heart, and then not enough.
You're jealous.
Me?
It's fascinating. You're both brilliant, but exact opposites in style. Christian is overt, passionate, fiery.
Whereas I?
You are coded, witty, rueful.
Coded?
His words aren't better than yours, just differently put. But both are endlessly quotable.
You know his letters by heart.
Oh, there we go. Cyrano de Bergerac. What a story. What a thing to watch on DVD and Blu-ray. Well, that rounds up the week for us here at Offscreen. Next week, we've got some big releases for you as well. I'm very much looking forward to the Jessie Buckley's Men. The trailer for that looks absolutely terrifying. We've also got Dashcam, The Lady of Heaven, and Olga is on our list for next week, providing that nothing changes in the scheduling at last minute. But that sounds like a good selection for us. And I'm excited to see what we come back with, aren't you, Van?
Well, yeah, it's always the fun is always in the Freeview picks because we never know what we're going to get on the Freeview. So we'll see what bonkers lunacy we can churn out next week, as well as streaming. Like, we don't know what comes to streaming. Like, how many times do you get to talk about random movies? Like, What's Your Number? I never thought I'd ever get to mention that movie again. Yeah. But like the time we got to talk about Cherry Falls. Who remembers Cherry Falls? That's literally why we have that slot. But we've got all those to come and more next week off screen. In the meanwhile, I've been Van Connor.
And I've been Becks Perfect, and we shall return.